So there's just been a lot of stuff recently leading up to the idea of this video for wanting to see a Pokémon Snap 2 of some form. Like this right here, Nintendo NX mass production postpones to early 2017, and the speculation is because of VR, and we're getting a lot more information about the NX. Also, I did my top 10 Pokémon Sun and Moon features video because I want to see a lot of things for Pokémon Sun and Moon, but what about just other games, other Pokémon related things, and Pokémon Snap 2 is certainly one of them. Also, we had the Virtual Console in Japan re-release Pokémon Snap just a couple months ago, actually like in April, so yeah, a little over 2 months ago right now, and that's pretty cool as well. However, it didn't have any gamepad functionality. You couldn't move the gyroscope in the gamepad to make it work with the camera, which is unfortunate, but it kind of shows that there could be promise there as to what it means for a Pokemon Snap on the NX. But I do want to go over this article because it is a pretty big point. Now, for the Nintendo NX news, this is pretty big because there's the talk of VR functionality to be added to the Nintendo NX, which is why it's being delayed until March of 2017, and that's if there's no more other delays. Another thing is that a couple months ago we did get confirmation that it will be a handheld plus a console of some sort. We don't really know how it's going to work out, but adding VR could be a really interesting thing. Now, the reason why VR is being speculated is because a supplier for the parts and all the design stuff, the manufacturer from Nintendo, has been told they need to start making these, and there was some kind of company leak going on. So the idea is, hey, there could be VR in this, and this immediately got me thinking Pokemon Snap, because okay, if Pokemon Snap 2 is in the works in some form, VR would be the way to go, because I mean, how awesome would that be that you just get to look around and then you can take pictures? I don't care if it'd be like the Vive or anything like that, where I can move some kind of joystick around. But I mean, even if I just had a controller in my hand, I pressed A while looking around, and that was how I snapped the pictures. That would be so amazing. But I guess one question is wondering, is a Pokemon Snap 2 even possible? We're starting to get ahead of ourselves, except we're not, because Junichi Masuda has talked about it in an interview. This is actually pretty cool. So, Masuda was clear to point out that the N64 Cult Classic wasn't originally developed by Game Freak, and this is true because it was supposed to be a different kind of game. They slapped in Pokemon because back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s, Pokemon was everywhere. It became everything. There were many games and many ideas that weren't supposed to be Pokemon related that you just kind of threw Pokemon into, and it still became a hit because that's how massive Pokemon was back then. And because of it, Pokemon Snap 2 was, or Pokemon Snap 1 was born, and it became one of the greatest things ever. And as a player, I definitely want to play a cool new version of Pokemon Snap. But at the same time, I think if it was just a remake with better graphics, it wouldn't be as interesting as a lot of people are imagining. I don't believe him right there. I just want a new update, as long as it's not the same thing, just rehash. We get a different story, a little bit better on the game mechanics, and then we also get new Pokemon, new worlds, new environments, new immersion that didn't exist back when the technology came out. I think I just want a new Pokemon Snap, but at the same time, this is why I like Game Freak. This is why I like Nintendo. They're always looking to innovate and push the limits. Sometimes it's to their detriment, but when it hits, it's an out-of-the-park home run. And then Masuda continues from that point. If someone was to end up developing it, they'd have to come up with some cool ideas to really make it a good game for the current generation. It's sort of like what I've been saying about Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. If it was just a direct port, it'd be kind of neat as well, but having new elements is definitely important. So even admits, yeah, it would be neat, it'd be a cool idea, it would be good, but we want better if we're going to be bringing back something that people are so excited for. Because everyone was just Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, we want it, we need it, where's our own remake, where's our own remake? They were saying this before Black and White 2 was even a thought to a degree, and then we got it and it was amazing, but then it kind of fizzled out. So I guess, if Game Freak kind of sees what happened with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they might even want to try harder on the next rehash, and that could be a little interesting, but it means it could be a while till we see the game, if we ever see it at all, because it might not just ever meet expectations to what we're setting it for, even though I'd still want it. I still think Pokemon Snap 2 is an amazing idea, and there's been so many opportunities to make it a thing. I just did a quick Google image search because look at all that. We have Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Snap, and it's Wii U, 3DS, 3DS Wii U, and on the 3DS, it would be a really neat idea. It seemed like that was where we could have realistically gotten a Pokemon Snap, because we have the camera functionality. We could look around and have a VR, but we could also just play the normal gameplay as well. The gyroscope could have some functionality. Yes, I think that that's a pretty cool idea. And we got a little bit of that with the Pokemon Dream Radar. Well, it wasn't a true Pokemon Snap kind of experience. It just showed like the technology is there. The technology could have happened for it, but Game Freak didn't feel that fine about it. I mean, everyone's been wanting Pokemon Snap 2 since the GameCube, since like we've already had Pokemon Snap 1, but there's a lot of titles and, you know, fake box art concepts that I really like about, you know, Pokemon Snap for the Wii, Pokemon Snap for the Wii U, and the Wii U seemed like it would have worked out really well because you had the gamepad. So that's another layer of immersion that everyone can get involved with right there, and you can play it in all sorts of environments, but we didn't even get the gamepad working with the updated virtual console, so that's an interesting thought right there. But then we go back to the VR aspect of it. So it looks like this might have been Game Freak's plan all along, maybe not specifically VR, but waiting for the right console, waiting for the right moment to throw out a Pokemon Snap 2. And with VR, like, we can see a lot of commercials and stuff with the HTC Vive and all that, there's a lot of running around the room, there's a lot of that immersion, and it puts you in the game world. I think that's going to be better than the gamepad, than what the 3DS can do, because if you just kind of do augmented reality, it's not as cool as virtual reality. And with what we've been seeing about the Vive, the opportunities are endless. Now, we don't know that the NX is going to have VR functionality to the degree of the Vive, but it's coming out later, so maybe the technology has become more accessible for console. I think that's one thing that everyone has learned from the launch of this, is that while you do need a beastly computer to kind of run the Oculus or the Vive or something like that, if anything, we've seen from the Samsung Gear VR that there's potential to put it on even limited hardware and still get some kind of functionality that could work out. So maybe the Nintendo, since they've not always been some kind of major graphics processing power hog like some of the other consoles that we've seen with Nintendo, they might try to feature this down in a way that it could work for everyone, or maybe they're going to amp up anything. We don't really know enough about the NX at this point, but it's still a very fun speculation idea that, man, Pokemon Snap with integrated VR, this is beyond, like, it's pretty much everyone's dream, but it didn't seem like a realistic possibility growing up in the 90s and stuff like that, as VR is now making an explosive and a very fast growth throughout the whole industry. It's crazy to think about, like, this could potentially be something for Pokemon Snap, and I'm 100% for it. I really want to see these ideas take off. Now, as for ideas and ways to make it better, like, I was making notes about this, like, a couple of weeks ago and a couple months ago when I was doing a live stream. I was talking about on the live stream, like, hey, I want to do a video about Pokemon Snap 2, and I wrote down gimmicks. Well, I don't even know what those gimmicks would be because that was so long ago, so I can't remember. But I mean, I like the idea of the apple. I like the idea of the pester ball. So keeping some kind of functionality like that, but Game Freak is looking to improve it. Now, don't have any crazy ideas on to how to innovate. I've been thinking about this for a couple hours as well. I'm like, man, I need to do the video, but I need something to back it up. And eventually, I didn't really come up with much because, you know, it seemed like with the basics that we had on the Nintendo 64, you know, we had the Pokeflute, we also had the Pester Ball and the Apple, we could get a Pokemon's attention well enough. I don't think capturing a Pokemon is necessary. It seems like the whole idea with this is that you don't capture Pokemon, you just kind of appreciate them in their environment and you try to get the coolest, flashiest pictures. So maybe because of the technology now, we could put filters on the pictures, we'd have more ability to share them, we could maybe customize and like touch up the photos to try to get a better score or something. That would be pretty cool. Maybe, oh, now my ideas are actually starting to roll now I've talked about it. Maybe try to like publish our own, this doesn't seem like something Game Freak would do, but I would say like publish our own mini website in the game, kind of make it like one of those business builder games as well, to where you're funding your hobby for capturing Pokemon stuff. While it is a pretty crazy idea, I mean, it shows that there are a lot of really wild directions that this idea can go for Pokemon Snap 2, and I guess that could work out. As for the story, we have the Alola region, and if you think about it, the first Pokemon Snap, it took place on an island, and the setting was actually really cool because we got all kinds of terrains and atmospheres. I feel like we could realistically do the same thing with the Alola region, or maybe a new region or something like that, but still have all of these styles and all the design elements that have been developing through Pokemon throughout the years, and we could really make that work. So I wouldn't really care about the story. Like, the story was like, find Mew and we're good to go, and that was cool. Like, we don't need a huge immersive over-the-top story to make this game mean something, even though I feel like maybe the story of building a business off of that, or like trying to just get pictures of all the legendaries Pokemon kind of turned into like a mystery dungeon in a way. That mystery dungeon, once you beat the main story, it's just pretty much like, alright, you grind all the dungeons and you try to get legendaries to befriend you. Maybe this is like trying to prove Pokemon that exists, because Mew, in Pokemon lore, is a Pokemon that is said to be so rare and so elusive that it doesn't even exist. So getting a picture of that is pretty crazy. Getting a picture of legendaries in their natural habitat or just very rare Pokemon might be enough to just kind of build up a praise or build up some kind of maybe becoming like a young professor, like in that kind of realm that, you know, you're training, you're trying to study Pokemon in the wild through pictures and capturing them in a new light, and that could just be enough to progress the story without making it something crazy. Like, I feel that the original Pokemon games, you know, Red and Blue version, Gold and Silver, they had some of the best stories because it's like, alright, we don't need any crazy ideas, we just need to take over, like, we just need to stop the evil organization from overthrowing society and taking over. And that was really all I cared about. That Team Rocket popped up, you just smacked them down. I didn't need this over-the-top plans like what we saw with Pokemon Black and White, and even X and Y. I wasn't a huge fan of the X and Y story either, even though I love the games. So, I just want to go out, have VR, live in the Pokemon world, and take pictures of Pokemon. Give it to me, Game Freak. That's all we need. And I think that this will be one of the craziest, amazing Pokemon experiences ever, and then we'll be good to go. Suddenly, the NX is looking like a really good foundation for this. Masuda has talked about wanting the games, and much like with Omega Ruby and Sapphire, it starts with talk, potentially with Pokemon communicating with you through the Rotom decks that we've already seen. You know, it just starts with an interview. Maybe that gets like, okay, Masuda's thinking, like, I got asked this question a lot. I see this comment a lot. This is something we need to do for our fans. So it seems like a really possibility. Tons of fan art, concepts, tons of people really want this. I think the idea is something worth exploring, and I just wanted to bring a little light to it as I've been talking about things I want for the future of Pokemon, because the future of Pokemon is looking very bright. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.